to order. And our first order of business is going to be to swear in the newly elected members, both those re-elected and newly joining us. And to do so, I guess we first have to take the roll call.
First of all, sorry, is the recording in progress? I don't think it is.
Recording in progress.
There you go. So, Dan, could you call the roll?
Yes. For that, I'll mention that there seems to be a problem with the link on the website. I'll try and fix that while we're.
We fixed it already, Dave. We just fixed it.
All right.
Okay, Claire.
Here.
Greg.
Here.
Michelle.
Here.
I'm here. Jill.
Here.
Dave.
Here.
Len.
Here.
Okay, we're all here.
Thank you, Dan. I would like to turn the meeting over to Tim Fox, County Counsel, who will conduct the swearing in of council members.
Good evening, everyone. Just by way of explanation, the law of oathing public officials, as we call it in California, changed slightly in 2017 to provide what it previously did not provide, which is that the oath that you take when you draw out your candidacy papers, which used to be effective as the only oath you needed to take in order to exercise public office, then needed to be now repeated following this change in law in 2017 with an oath administered prior to assuming office and exercising the duties of office. So some of you may recall a time when if you took out your papers, the subsequent swearing ceremony was purely ceremonial. You could have a family member do it. It didn't need to be legally effective because the one that you took in the clerk's office when you took out your candidacy papers was enough, and that is now no longer the case. In addition, there's been a new practice of re-oathing people elected to new terms. So all elected officials in San Mateo County are encouraged or in some cases required to have the oath re-administered when they begin a new elective term. So that's just by way of explanation so that if it's not consistent with past practice, now you know why. So if I may, can we start with Claire, because you've done this before, you might remember. So I'm going to share my screen that has the oath on it and then ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. You do not need to stand up for this, though. Okay, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Claire Toutant.
I, Claire Toutant.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend.
That I will support and defend.
The Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
The Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
To the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California.
To the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
The duties upon which I am about to enter.
The duties upon which I am about to enter.
Perfect. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, moving now, if we could, to Mr. Matamal. Could you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Gus Matamal.
I, Gus Matamal.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend.
That I will support and defend.
The Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
The Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
To the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California.
To the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Perfect. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bollinger, would you please raise your right hand and repeat after me?
Sure.
I, Scott Bollinger,
I, Scott Bollinger,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Perfect. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tim, are we done?
I am. I'm going to unshare my screen, and I believe that is all I needed to do for you tonight. So I will say my goodbyes.
Yes. Thank
All
you,
right.
Tim, and we will see you shortly.
All
Thank
right.
you
Take
much,
care.
Tim.
Bye.
The next order of business is the election of officers, and then we'll go into government officials' reports. I think we should start by requesting nominations for the office of chair. Do we have a nomination?
Greg, could I have a second? I just wanted to thank all the past members for serving, and thank Tim and welcome all the new members of the MCC. Because I think at this point,
Dan, we're going to do that. We're going to do that a little later in the agenda. We have extensive activities planned.
okay.
Claire,
You asked for nominations?
I did for chair.
I nominate Greg Diegas.
Second.
Do we have additional nominees? Hearing none, do we call for a vote, or is that considered acclamation?
No, we call for a vote.
All right, Dan, would you call the roll for a vote on Greg Diegas as chair of the Midcoast Community Council?
Okay. Claire,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Michelle.
Wait,
Oh, you're right.
I don't know. What do we do?
No, I got to change my list here. I'm just.
Wait, I don't know if we do change.
I
it
would
yet.
vote for Greg, but I don't think I have a vote anymore.
No, at this point, the new members, that's why I wanted to take that point to just say thank you for everybody else, because
We'll do it. We'll do it.
we're off the council now. So I will change to and then okay, so I already did Craig and Claire. Gus,
Yes.
are we all in agreement? This is the way we're voting, right? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Scott,
Yes.
Jill,
No.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Joe.
No, I want to vote yes, Claire.
You're still here. Yeah. Okay.
okay,
Nice
She
try.
counts.
and yes, so that's 6-0.
Okay, thank you. I'd now like to entertain nominations for vice chair. I nominate Claire Touton.
I'll second that.
Do we have additional nominees for the position of vice chair? Hearing none. Dan, would you call the roll for a vote for vice chair?
Claire,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Gus,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Yeah, so 6-0 passes.
All right, I'd now like to call for nominations for the office of secretary. Do we have nominations for the office of secretary?
So can I nominate myself?
No, I will nominate Scott.
Oh, okay,
Bollinger.
never mind.
I'll second.
Do we have additional nominees for the office of secretary? Hearing none. Dan, would you call the roll call for a vote for the office of secretary?
And this is for Scott, correct?
Yes.
Scott,
Okay.
only one nominated.
Claire,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Gus,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
and yes, this passes 6-0.
So Dan is a yes then.
Yes.
I would now like to call for nominations for the office of treasurer.
I
I
nominate,
would like to nominate. Go ahead.
I nominate Dan.
I'll second that. Do we have additional nominees for the office of treasurer? Hearing none. Dan, would you call the roll for the office of treasurer?
Claire,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Gus,
Yes.
and I'm yes, 6-0. Okay.
That concludes the first agenda item, then swearing in of the council members and election of officers. I'd like to now turn to the Board of Supervisors report and reports from other government officials. Harvey, if you don't mind, we'd like to begin today with Captain Rebecca Albin of the Sheriff's Office, who is going to introduce herself.
I had to find my unmute. I'd just like to say hi to everybody. I am happy to be here. I had planned on meeting you all a while ago, maybe even a couple months ago, but I did get COVID, just like the rest of the world. And so I was unable to meet you all then, but I'm happy to meet you now. So my name is Rebecca Albin. I am a captain with the Sheriff's Office. I have been your Coast Side Chief for about 3 months now, I think. It sounds cliche maybe, but it really does feel like longer because I have been doing the best job I can to meet as many people as fast as possible, which even though obviously it is part of my job has been really enjoyable because I don't have a lot of experience here on the coast. I worked for the Millbrae Police Department for almost 8 years. And then we were part of the Sheriff's Office acquisition in 2012. Half Moon Bay, I believe, was 2011, the year before us. And that's how I came to the Sheriff's Office, where I've been just over 10 years now. So I have worked all over the place with the exception of the coast. Until now, it had caught up to me and I was sent out here. And I have to say, it is one of the best assignments I've had. And I know I've only been here for a comparatively short time, but everybody I've met has been so welcoming and so friendly. You have really good restaurants. People say hi to me when I walk down the street. And one thing that I've come to learn in the short time that I've been here is while we may all have different methods, I think we all want the same thing, which is the community to be safe and to be livable and everybody to be happy. And I feel like everybody I've met, while, like I said, sometimes we come from different political vantage points, different cultural, vantage points, socioeconomic, you name it. Everybody's very different, but I feel like that one thing brings us all together. So I am very happy to be here. I have heard about all of you. I've met some of you. I look forward to meeting more of you. I do generally work business hours, but I am happy to be here and join you all anytime that there's something that you feel I can be of service with. And I am glad that I got to be at this meeting because it was very interesting watching everybody get sworn in. It makes me feel a little bit nostalgic because when I hear that oath of office, every time I've heard it, it means I'm getting promoted. So every time that they completed, I was ready to start clapping and hugging my family. So, you know, congratulations to all of you. It is certainly a serious oath, but, you know, also one that I think we're all lucky to share because, you know, it means that we all have that kind of inner feeling that we want to serve our community and do something bigger than ourselves. So anyway, I'm not sure how long I'm supposed to talk, but it is very nice to meet all of you. I'm very happy to be here. If there's any questions that you may have for me now, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm just here to listen and learn.
Well spoken, Captain Albin. Sid, do you have a question for the captain?
I certainly do. I've lived in Moss Beach since 1988. Welcome to the coast side. The sheriff's office used to be located in Moss Beach for the substation in Moss Beach. I don't know if you've paid a visit up there, but I would like to know why you aren't up there anymore. And when it used to be, I think it was Lieutenant or Captain Quinlan and Steve Shively and all of those. Then Half Moon Bay contracted with you, and now you guys are all down there. Is that right?
It's a little bit right. We are still in Moss Beach. I have been there because that's one of my two substations.
But that's not your office. It's not your office anymore, right? You're basically based out of the Half Moon Bay contracted office.
Yes, I do have two offices, one at Moss Beach and one at Half Moon Bay, but I do spend the lion's share of my time in my office in Half Moon Bay when I'm in the office, because again, I'm often out of the office, all over the place, like I said, trying to acclimate and learn about my new community.
Well, was the decision based on better restaurants, or why did you go there instead of up in Moss Beach? I'm just curious.
Sure, no problem. The decision, at least for right now, is again, I am the Half Moon Bay Police Chief and the Coastside Commander. So I have a huge amount of space that I'm responsible for. Thankfully, I have amazing staff that work for me that cover that entire area. It has seemed like since I've gotten here that a lot of the, I don't want to say calls for service because it's not the nature of what I do, but a lot of the meetings that I've had have taken me to Half Moon Bay. A lot of the concerns that people have brought me have been in Half Moon Bay, and there have been less in the unincorporated areas. However, I have been in the unincorporated areas. I was just out at Puente the other day, which amazing, everything that they do. So I do go to both places. Though I do have one office physically that I have in Half Moon Bay, I do have another one in Moss Beach, but just by happenstance, I have been spending more time in Half Moon Bay, but it doesn't mean that I have any less love for the unincorporated areas by the fact that I'm here with you all tonight.
Well, I think it's a jip for us up on the Midcoast, and because we had the sheriffs first, but now it seems like I don't even see patrol cars going by my house anymore. Is there a thing since gas prices went up that you guys aren't patrolling as much?
No, absolutely not. Okay. We patrol everywhere equally.
Okay.
And, you know, all I can say is it's sort of like having two kids. I love them equally, both of them. We used to just have one and now we have two. So, you know, while I do spend a lot of time in Half Moon Bay, again, I do spend in the unincorporated areas as well. And we have deputies that are detailed to specifically the unincorporated areas. But if there's a need in your neighborhood that specifically we need to do passing checks or something, then, you know, please feel free to give me your address or the location of your complaint, and we can make sure specifically that we get some patrol in that area for whatever the need is.
Yeah, I don't have a specific need. I just
thank you. We need to move on. We have other people wanting to comment, and we have a surprise guest. Dan, you wanted to ask the sheriff a question?
Yes, thank you, Captain Albin. I just basically wanted to bring it to your attention. You may be aware, may not. The traffic signal at Coronado is not functioning the way it was before the island was put in, the Coronado and Highway 1. And I did notify Department of Public Works and trying to get a hold of Caltrans, but they're not answering their phone. Their maintenance yard down in Half Moon Bay, and I think there's another one in Foster City. For some reason, it just rings and rings and nobody picks up, and you can't leave a message. But anyway, just wanted are you aware of that problem? I drive by it in the morning and it's red more than it's green.
I'm aware of it now. So that is something that I can definitely look into first thing tomorrow. And you know what, I will let you know. I would hope that they'll answer my phone call. But either way, I'll let you know what response I get. And it doesn't seem like something I can't help with. So I'll let you know what I find out.
Thank you, Captain Alvin.
All right. Thank you for coming tonight. And I'm sure we will be in touch as you and I already have.
Absolutely. Again, it's a pleasure to meet all of you.
All right. I have a surprise drop-in guest here that I'm going to put before patient Harvey. Lena Silberman is joining us live from the retirement party celebration at Don Horsley's place. I don't know if we have camera footage. Lena, can you unmute yourself and give us your now? Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for squeezing me in, and I apologize. I wanted to come in right at my normal allotted time, but I had a feeling Don was about to talk to me about me on stage, and I'm very narcissistic, so I needed to hear him talk about me and then come over here. But I just wanted to let y'all know I will be assisting Ray with his transition as he gets staff as the new supervisor. So I'll be around for a little bit longer, and then I'll be moving to the county executive's office to work on the Ending Homelessness Initiative, which will mean I'll be still very engaged on the coast side because there's very much a need there. And sorry, I'm shivering a little bit because I'm cold because I'm outside, but I just want to let y'all know that, you know, when I first came into this job in 2020 as my first job out of college, I was very intimidated to come to an MCC meeting. Y'all were very intimidating to me. Clearly know so much and have so much care for your community. And I felt hugely responsible to fulfill that task. And what I did learn is that although all 7 of you care very passionately and the community cares very passionately that comes to these meetings, y'all have always treated me with grace, even when I haven't necessarily met every expectation. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to work with y'all, and I'm sad it's coming to an end so soon. And hopefully one day I will prove myself enough and be able to buy a house in District 3 and be District 3 supervisor so I can be around once again, but we'll have to wait for that day. And I just want to say thank you to all of you, and I will be around in January, so it's not goodbye forever, but because I know some of y'all are leaving the council, I wanted to say my last farewell. Thank you so much for giving me the chance.
Thank you, Lena. You've been great.
Thank you.
Don't go, Lena.
Yeah, don't go.
Oh. All right. Now, if we could recognize the esteemed council member Harvey Rohrback from Half Moon Bay for his report.
Thank you. I also want to say goodbye to Lena and hello to Captain Alvin. It's great to have you on board. Captain Alvin is going to be the coastside commander for both unincorporated Midcoast and Half Moon Bay. So we're looking forward to working with her. And we'll miss Lena at these meetings, but I'm sure we're going to be seeing Lena as her role in the county. I have a couple of quick items. The first is that next week on the 20th, the City Council is going to be reorganizing as it does every year. We're going to be selecting our mayor and vice mayor. I hope it doesn't take the 17 hours that it took the city of San Mateo to pick their mayor. I have a feeling ours is going to take about 2 minutes. And spoiler alert, it's going to be Deborah Penrose, who's our current vice mayor, but we'll have to do it legally. So we're looking forward to that reorganization meeting. It should be a relatively brief meeting next Tuesday. The only substantive thing I want to report is that the county is giving the city a little under $1 million to initiate a safe parking program that's going to be administered jointly with We Hope from East Palo Alto. And that safe parking program will allow us to have at least 10 RVs or cars with people who unfortunately don't have any other permanent housing. And they'll be able to have access to an area where they can park safely, and there'll be services available to try to get them into permanent supportive housing. So that's an exciting program that we're looking forward to. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Sid, is that question for Harvey? Go ahead.
I do. Actually, it's not so much of a question, but I did look up, it's sort of a question. I looked up on the property tax rolls for that issue that I mentioned last time about 230 Cabrillo Highway South. Looks like the county paid the current tax bill, but there's still the $57,000 delinquent tax bill. So did you check in with Matthew about that?
I didn't check, Sid, I didn't check in specifically, but if Matthew says he's going to check it, he's going to check it. So I'm confident that it'll be arranged.
Well, I'll keep asking you about it. So maybe next time you can find out and let us know. Thank you.
Sure.
Claire, you have a question for Harvey.
Yes. The program that you mentioned about safe parking area, I won't go into detail right now, but I would like to say that I don't know what you're looking at, but if it's something on the Midcoast, we would like to be involved.
Yes, you will be, I'm sure.
We would like to be involved at the very beginning, or as close to the very beginning as possible.
I hear you. And most definitely it's going to be in the Midcoast.
Well, we most definitely should have been involved before now. So we'll follow up with you on that.
They're the ones that got the $1 million, Claire, not us.
No, be quiet, please. I'm just making a point with Harvey, and we'll follow up on it.
I hear you. I really do.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good point, Claire. Jill, you had your hand up. It's now down.
Yeah, I was same question as Claire.
Okay, Dan, you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, thank you, Harvey, for your report. Do you know where this parking program is going to be located?
It hasn't been decided yet.
Okay.
We're looking.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
And Dave Olson, you had a question, but your hand is now down. So I assume you are done. Okay, Harvey, thank you for coming. It does seem like we need to coordinate on a few issues. All right, I believe we have now finished the government reports part and should move on to public comment and announcements. What I would like to do is begin with item 3A, recognition of the outgoing council members. Claire, would you care to initiate that discussion?
Sure. I was looking at the dates that people who are now leaving the council have served and was very impressed. We're saying goodbye to Len Erickson and to Michelle Weil and to Dave Olson, and not quite yet to Jill Grant, but soon. And of the last 7 years, 5 of those years have been, the MCC has been chaired by one of these 4 people. Since 2011, at least one of these 4 people has been an officer in the MCC, except for 1 year. At least one of these people has been on the council every year for the last 10 years. So we're losing a huge reservoir of service and energy and knowledge. They will all be missed. And I do want, this is on Zoom, so we can't do anything physical, but you will be receiving, all of you, a commemorative coffee mug with the MCC logo on it, your name, and the years that you served on the MCC. Those will be coming sometime soon. But I wish all of you good luck, and I want all of you to know that how grateful I am, and all the rest of us are too, for everything you've done. I can pass.
And I would like to second that, because now that I'm sitting in the chair seat and have to take over, for example, a lot of the technical duties that Dave Olson was performing, I can see what a massive behind the scenes effort it was. I also know Len Erickson has worked for decades on open space, trust, wildfire, transportation, and we're losing so much stuff. So we've taken liens out on your houses, and you will be asked to come to future MCC meetings. Okay. Jill, we're also going to miss you, but I know you're going to continue to serve at El Granada. And Michelle, the newsletter is waiting for your editing in another month or so. All right. And we appreciate everything you've done to make us a better communicator to the community. Do we have other comments from the council or public about these fugitives?
Yeah. Yes, I'd like to say something just real quick. You know, Dave, you've been a great resource. I don't even know if I need to say that, but thank you very much for all of your service. And you know, Lynn, thank you. Michelle, thank you very much for you know, everything that you've all done. You know, I'm not the only one that just loves this area, and this MCC functioning well just stands to help protect our area, not only for the residents, but all of the visitors that are coming from the greater region and all over the world. So thank you for all your dedication, all of your hard work, all of your ideas, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you, and happy holidays.
And I just put out a special thank you to Dave, who basically recruited me for the council and really sold me on the benefits of being on it. So thank you so much, Dave.
Do we have any other council members comments on the departing members?
Yeah, I'd like to speak.
Go ahead.
I also would like to thank Dave for being a pain, but it's making me stretch and grow. And he also recruited me. And I have learned a lot from Dave and Claire and Michelle. You guys have been great helping me along, supporting me. And Dan constantly nagging me, texting me, calling me. Thank you so much for doing that. Keep doing that. I want to be involved. And Len, you're just a wealth. So I know you're going to still be in politics, and I'm excited to watch you work. And I hope to continue coming to these meetings and participating as a member of the community now. Thank you, everyone, for your willingness to listen and respond to everyone in the community. It's one of the best assets of this group is that you listen and then you respond and you have heated discussions and flesh out solutions. And I think it's just a wonderful council. So thank you, everyone.
Before we invite the fugitives to speak on their behalf, I wanted to entertain public comment on this matter. And I see two hands. I see Sid Young first.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who is departing, but I do think it's important for an organization to grow and stay vibrant, to change it up, and also be able to, you know, like they say, recruit or help to grow new members. It's very important, or people, you know, will get entrenched and stagnate. But by the same token, Jill, I don't see very often that we have a member from the GCSD board coming to give reports to the meeting. So don't feel you only have to come as a public member. Please give us reports on what's going on with the GCSD from time to time. And congratulations on your new position. So goodbye to everybody else who's leaving, but I'm sure we'll see you as active members of the public. Thank you.
Anne?
Hi, I just wanted to give my thanks to everyone who has put so many hours in to serve our community. I don't know how you all do it, but I just want to give my sincere thank you for everything you've all done.
But we have 2 spaces opening up. Kimberly Williams?
Hi, I also just want to say thank you to all of you. You do really important work. I've appreciated your dedication, as Dan said, and the time that you put in, which has been significant. So thank you very much.
Fran Pollard?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I too want to thank everyone for all your hard work. I know I've worked with Len and Dave for many years, and Dave, I know you do an awful lot on the Midcoast Community Council. So thank you for all your hard work. Len, too, all the meetings. And Michelle, I don't know if we ever met, but I've watched you and I appreciated all the things you've said and done. And thank you very much, all of you. And I wish you luck and that you do well, but keep in touch. I hope you stay involved. All right. Thank you. Bye.
She's going to stay involved.
And Jill, one more thing. Jill, congratulations and good luck on your new adventure.
So now I'd like to entertain any statements from the departing council members in reverse alphabetical order by last name, beginning with Michelle Weil.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Yeah, it's been an amazing opportunity serving the council and the community over the last 4 years. When I first joined the council back in 2018, I was relatively new to the community. I'd been here since early 2017. This girl was 2 years old. I didn't have my other child, who is now 2 years old. So a lot has changed. You know, obviously it was pre-COVID. We were meeting in person. And yeah, over the past 4 years, it's been a great opportunity, and we made progress in terms of increasing awareness of the MCC and starting that newsletter, which I'm happy to continue to help out with. Weighing in on planning issues, working. One of the big focuses I've had really is on emergency preparedness and getting the community prepared for the threat of wildfire and other emergencies, being able to make sure we have the ability to evacuate and making sure that our local communities are safe and so my work with the Quarry Park scoping project and fuel reduction. I'll continue to be involved in the future. One is in my role on the San Mateo Resource Conservation District. So I'm now a director on that board and looking forward to continuing to serve the community through the RCD. And I would also like to continue to work with the MCC on some of the projects that have not quite been completed over the years, especially with regard to the airport fuel, the lead issue that is occurring. We have lead being emitted from planes. Thankfully, the FAA has recently approved a fuel that doesn't include lead for use in all airplanes, but I still want to continue to, make sure that the community is safe from that threat. So I also wanted to thank Greg, well, everyone, Dave and Len, especially outgoing MCC members, for all of your help over the years. And also Claire has been quite a mentor to me. So yeah, I will miss serving on the council, but I'm not going anywhere. So I'll still be here.
Next, in reverse alphabetical order, we would have Dave Olson.
Hi, I don't have a lot to say. It's been a pretty amazing 9 years, extremely aggravating at times. Both the county and situations that we can't address. I've learned an amazing amount from earlier council members and from the current council members, including those who are outgoing. Len was leaving the council, I think, when I first joined, and I had learned some early trail stuff from him, as well as the surprise Highway 1 stuff. I hope I've been able to pass some of the information I have on to others, and certainly am willing to answer questions. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I'll hope to do a lot of traveling as COVID tapers off. So yeah, keep it up.
Well, I know for one thing, David and Michelle are going to fix the mailing list issue.
Yes, we are.
I'm not letting them out of town with that.
I finally finished the draft email on that after, for those in the community who are not aware of it, I am a quite significant procrastinator, but I do get there eventually.
I think we call that just-in-time production. Jill Grant, I know you're still a member tonight, but sometime tomorrow night when you take your oath of office at GCSD, you will no longer be, and I entertain your comments.
I think I have already thanked everybody. I would also like to welcome Scott and Gus, and just say, if you ever need any advice or if you need to cry on my shoulder, I am always here.
Thank you.
You'll have a great time.
Len Erickson, last but not least.
It's been a long time that I've been either involved in the MCC or on it. I think I have one unique record. I've held every position in the MCC twice. I was concerned I wouldn't be able to make this on all the offices, but by having various issues with secretary, I managed to serve that in 2 different terms as well. But to everybody here, those coming on and those leaving, I think all of us who are on know just how much work it takes to support things. And everybody's made unique contributions in doing that. With myself in the offices, those are visible, if you will. I did some early things on the technology behind the scenes, but I well appreciate all that Dave has to do. So, and Greg, from your comments, I know you know what a big job you're taking on. I've been active primarily in 2 major areas for the time I've been on the coast. One had to do with transportation and the other with parks. And I expect to remain active in both those areas, not on the council, but in other ways. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, with respect to wildfire, I do expect to be active trying to determine whether being a fire-wise community is useful for our El Granada, Miramar area at least. So I'll be working on that. So I expect to be active and in touch with people. I think we have in the council here someone who on his own initiative, before he even got onto the MCC, was on the Transportation Authority Citizens Advisory Committee. That's Gus, and congratulations for your initiative to do that. And I look forward to talking to you a lot about that. There's any number of things to do there. So to all, thanks very much, and congratulations to the new members. And I think the members going out have all done some really great things while they've been here. Thank you.
Thank you all. I can't tell you how much I've learned from you all. Now, I'd like to also allow the 2 new members, and Claire, of course, you're welcome as a newly reelected member to speak if you wish, but I thought I would begin with new member Gus and let him introduce himself, although he's already done significant work for us in preparing a letter on Cypress Point and being the editor of the last newsletter. But what the heck, Gus, you got something to say?
I just want to thank everyone for spending some time with me to just let me know about your own experiences on the council. It was just really helpful for me to understand and feel like I could hit the ground running when I joined. I'm really excited to serve our community. Transportation will be a big area of focus for me. I look forward to working with Len on that and with all of the rest of you, obviously. And I'm also really interested in education. That's my business. I just met with Corinne, who's the executive director of the Cabrillo Educational Foundation, to talk about some ways my organization might partner with hers, but they do a lot of great work here in our community, and they are fundraising right now. So if anybody, wants to support some good education work happening here in our community, Cabrillo Education Foundation would be a place to start. But I look forward to finding some other ways that we as a council might be able to be supportive of education in our community. But thank you very much. I'm really excited to work with everybody going forward. Thanks.
And speaking of people who did some work before they joined the council, Scott, who has already helped prepare the slides you're going to see today on the Fire Road in Quarry Park. Scott, would you introduce yourself and say something?
Sure. I'm Scott Bollinger. I moved here a few years ago. I lived in Burlingame for 26 years, and I was a in the Bay Area and the West Coast and the Rocky Mountains in molecular biology. So my greatest interests in the coast is the forests and the beaches and the rest of the natural resources. So I want to be really intimately involved in making those available to everybody and keeping them as pristine and beautiful as they are now. That's why when I heard that there was going to be another fire road put into my neighborhood, I wanted to see exactly what that meant and what impact it could have for us, plus or minus. And the most of all, I'm just here to serve and help and make life as good as possible for everyone.
Well, welcome to both of you, and thank you for the contributions you've already made. Claire, did you want to add any words, or do we go to the consent agenda?
We had talked about, by talking about summing up the last year. We can do that now, or we can do that at the retreat, or both, or neither. Not neither.
Well, you're on the East Coast time. If you want to take a few minutes to highlight some points, please do.
Okay. All right. I do want to I'm looking back at the year and my time as chair, and it has been a heck of a lot of work. So I just wanted to mention some of what we've done. We have all done quite a bit, actually. One of the goals that I had for the year in terms of being chair was to thread a fine line between involving everyone in everything and having interaction between people and with the community and with the people that come in and present. That's a hard balance to maintain, and at times maybe I've gone one way or the other way. That just means that I was probably somewhere near where I wanted to be. We have, I want to just go through really quickly what we've done. We have dealt with every planning referral from the planning commission, the planning department. We've referred 4 of these projects to the whole council to review. We've mediated 3 neighborhood disputes or areas of local concern. Some of it out of the sight of the public. We've had the candidates forum for the Board of Supervisors. The various things that we've actually addressed fall into probably 6 categories the way I would look at it. One is highways and transportation. We finalized the Connect the Coast side. We've been dealing with the parallel trail where all of your current officers were present for or past officers were present for the trail breaking or the groundbreaking. There's been Caltrans issues, traffic demands, safe routes to school, local road safety. We've dealt with parks, with off-leash dog walking, with the Seal Cove AV signage, Quarry Park Master Plan, Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space and Plastic Turf. We've had MCC visibility in terms of the newsletter and a lot of time transitioning into the new leadership that's coming in. We've dealt with housing in terms of referral for the Cypress Point project and with the county housing element. We've dealt with safety, with scoping project for fire risk mitigation, MCC alerts, the airport air fuel issues, and sewer issues. We've done quality of life work with the CARES project, the fentanyl issue, the airport noise and operations, lighting, the history of the Midcoast, gray water, and aging. And we've made increasingly deep relationships with the airport, with Half Moon Bay, with Sustainable San Mateo, with Fire Safe Communities, with Seamless Transportation, and with the age-friendly communities. Every member of the MCC has sponsored at least one agenda item. And I think we've all worked together and been very effective this year. And I've been honored to be your chair. And I look forward to working with Greg. Thank you.
And bless you, Claire, for staying on for another 4 years. I don't know what we would have done without you. Before Dave speaks, I want to make sure we make this announcement. As of tomorrow night, with Jill Grant moving to GCSD, we will have 2 vacancies on the Midcoast Community Council. And we will normally fill those by appointment. I have to talk to Tim Fox for the detailed procedure. My expectation is the appointments will be for a 2-year term until the next election. And Dave, you wanted to ask a question or make a comment?
Yeah, it was basically on what you just said. I just wanted to make sure everybody in the community knew that it will probably be possible to apply to be appointed. It's always possible that county counsel's office will say that there has to be another election. The bylaws we've had were fairly clear there would be an appointment, but county counsel's office has disagreed with their interpretation in the past. But one way or another, there's 2 more people to show up on CC. That stay in contact with Greg, let him know you're interested, whichever way it goes. And I would be happy to answer any questions, what it's like being on the council, and I'll be honest about it. Meanwhile, the council will be sort of limping along with 5 people. And as a reminder to the public, the Brown Act says that less than a quorum can talk about a single issue, either directly or via members of the public. So if you have an issue, don't talk to more than 2 council members about the same thing until those vacancies are filled, because a quorum is now 3 people, not 4. So I really hope people step forward, and I'm very, very happy that Scott and Gus filed for the vacancies, and hope to see more. Thank you.
Are there any limitations?
Scott?
Sorry, I don't know how to put my hand up, sorry. Are there any limitations to who can be on the council? Like, my wife is interested. She said, if you need my help, I'm interested.
I can answer that, or Greg can answer it.
Well, I'm not sure of my footing on the answer. So I would defer either to Dave or to county council, and I plan to have this on the agenda at the first meeting in January, what the process is going to be.
Yeah.
And thanks for your wife's interest.
Okay.
I think you should refer that to Scott. My wife was on the council, and I never ran while she was on, and I never looked into whether that was possible or not. There may be some considerations there.
Okay.
As far as I know, from my experience, it's possible.
It's possible and legal. I would caution, based on experience on various boards I've been on, when couples are both on the same board, be it public or nonprofit or similar, there's always the opportunity for new conflicts. So,
okay.
It's going to complicate Brown issues as well, Brown Act issues.
Yeah, it's really hard to not talk to each other when you're in the same household. But more directly, there is a page on the MCC website that says who can run. You have to be a resident of the Midcoast precincts. And it's confusing because the Half Moon Bay city limits include part of the area that people think of as the Midcoast. So if you're not sure, contact Greg or one of the other council members and we can let you know.
Okay, Fran, did you have a question or a public comment?
Yes,
Fran Pollard,
I wanted to say welcome to the new members and thank you for serving. And I just wanted to comment that how impressed I've been with this last council. I've been watching and been involved with the council from its inception. And this is one of the best ones there ever was. And that there were 7 board members continuously, which we went several years without that many. And you are all very bright and you've done a terrific job. And I want to thank you all. That's it.
Thanks, Fran. Dan, you wanted to make a comment, public comment?
Yeah, no, a question for Dave in regards to the his report about the appointment process. Dave, have you learned of something that has changed? Because it kind of, the way you reported, it sounds like it was kind of arbitrary up to Tim Fox as to how to move forward with this. Because you know, it's always been the same since the whole time I've been on the council.
Not arbitrary, but where there are laws, they need to be interpreted. And for the county of San Mateo, it's the county council's office that does the interpretation, subject to somebody appealing to the courts. This came up the last time we appointed somebody. We went through the entire process. We interviewed, we recommended, and we got all the way to the last step of them being approved by the Board of Supervisors when county council's office said that the replacement had to be elected, not appointed. So that's why I say we're all holding off waiting for county council's opinion.
Yeah, I thought that was because it was so close to the election, but and I thought that was an arbitrary thing at that time, just because it was so close. But okay, well, thank you for your answer.
Well, let's not speculate. I will get a written statement from Tim Fox and provide it to the council. Sid Young, you have a public comment?
No, I have a question for Dave Olson really briefly on that same subject. Does that mean that they would opt to have a special election for just 2 candidates of the MCC? That seems kind of expensive, but maybe they didn't mention that in your conversation with Tim Fox.
Typically be the next general election, not a specially held election, which would mean there would be a vacancy for at least until June.
2 vacancies until June. Okay, thank you.
All right, with that, I would like to close public comment and announcements and move to the consent agenda, which includes approving the minutes for November 30th, 2022 special meeting and the resolution to continue virtual meetings for 30 days due to a COVID emergency. Do we have any objection to voting on the consent agenda as
I
it
do.
exists?
I have a correction.
Go ahead.
You can't, I'm sorry. I'm not in charge.
Can I make a correction of my statement that was mistyped in the minutes? Or do you want me to wait till you guys approve it and then I'll complain?
No, you have to pull it from the agenda and do it at the end of the regular agenda.
But only the council can do that, can't they?
Right, that's why I'm asking.
I make a motion that we pull the minutes.
No, and to be very, very clear, any member of the public can request that anything on consent be pulled from consent.
Okay.
Okay, so we will pull the minutes from approval. It would help expedite things, Sid, if you would type into chat so that we could see what the change or correction is before we get to it, and we will cover that I think at the end of the regular agenda, we'll make it item 5C.
All right.
Do I have a motion?
Terrible
Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
All right, Dan, can you call the roll to approve the remainder of the consent agenda?
Okay, that was Claire second, and was it Scott that moved it?
No, I moved it. Scott seconded.
Okay.
Gus seconded it, but that's okay.
Gus seconded.
Second. Okay, sorry.
It was here.
Okay, Claire,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Gus,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
and I'm yes, so that's 6-0. Passes.
All right. Thank you. We now begin the regular agenda. The first item of business is the Quarry Park South Ridge Fire Road extension. Dave started work on this while he was on the council. Scott also did work on it. One of you is going to present.
We've not talked about it. Do you present the presentation you drew up, Scott? You're on mute.
Scott is on mute.
Yeah, he is. Sorry about that. Yeah, sure. I can talk about the slides I put together.
Okay, I'll pop them up.
Okay.
And tell me when you want to switch.
Sure.
Hold on here. Let me get it up.
So this was a great interest to me because this proposed fire road is going to be, the access to it goes right in front of my house on Coronado Ave in Miramar.
I'm having some problems. Keep going, Scott.
Okay, so the proposed fire road goes through a forest of, oh, there you go. So yeah, Quarry Park. And that the first picture you saw was, I took a picture of that. That's the end of the street. You don't have to go back. Don't worry about it. We'll see that picture again. That's the entrance to the park. And I took the picture because I thought the tree was beautiful. The picture on your left is the actual proposed location. And you can see on the bottom left of that picture is the edge of Coronado Ave. And on the right-hand picture is the area in red is where the new fire road is going to go. And it's again on the bottom right-hand portion of Quarry Park. So you can go to the next slide. Okay, the picture on the left is where it's going to be driven up through that forest, and that's a forest of Monterey pines. The picture on the right is looking down through that forest of Monterey pines. If you're up in that forest, you can see, if you look closely, existence of fire roads that have been there in the past. And you can also see where the fire roads are is where trees fall down. And there's evidence of just exposed roots of trees have fallen. It's always right next to fire roads. You can go to the next one, next slide. So it was mentioned earlier that I don't know exactly what the wording was, but I'll just say it was the Monterey pine was said to be an invasive species. It's not. It's supposed to be on the coast of California, and I believe we are on the coast of California. And it's just a really good example of a little Monterey pine forest they plan on driving this fire road through. And I couldn't tell from looking at the map how many trees they plan on removing, and if they plan on going around these trees. So again, I added this piece of information I took from Wikipedia talking about how it's supposed to be here. And the eucalyptus trees are not. I don't have any problems ripping down eucalyptus trees. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so this is a fire road. The picture on your left is a fire road in Quarry Park, and that was taken a couple days after a rain. Not this previous rain that we had. It was maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. And you can see evidence of pretty heavy duty runoff coming straight down a fire road. The next 3 pictures are examples of what happens when you get that runoff. And you can see how just erosion can remove the soil below the fire road and expose the remove the dirt and expose the topsoil and roots, and eventually those trees will fall down into the fire road. I believe that, I don't remember exactly what this looked like before they widened the road last year. So last year they regraded this fire road, made it wider, and left exposed roots along the edge of it, on the uphill side of a lot of it. I could have taken a lot more pictures, but again, they mostly look the same. And on the bottom right picture and if you look closely, you can see a lot of roots exposed. You can go to the next slide. So this is a picture of what happens. And I know it's tough to understand when you're looking at this picture, but if you look closely, you can see how the forest floor has slid down. It's what happens, and it's whenever you see a trail or a road that's been put in, oftentimes this happens, and so the entire high side of the road will slide down into the fire road or trail or whatever. And the picture on the right, you can see the depression, and the picture on the left is just a zoom in of that depression from where after a road is put in, it becomes unstable. You can go to the next slide, please. So I just wanted to sum up real quick with some issues that that could happen when you put a fire road in. There can be erosion. I show you evidence of that. There can be trees falling into the road, which blocks access. I'm just because I like those trees, I'm concerned about damage to the California native grove trees there. I'm also kind of concerned about damage to Coronado Ave from heavy machinery that are going to be used to make this fire road. Now, I understand why they chose this spot. It's an easy access to that portion of the park. Now, one thing I don't know though, and it's important, is who's responsible for the maintenance of this portion of Miramar. I know that there was a time when the people on my street all put in money to have the road paved. And if that's still the case, if we're responsible for maintenance of the road, I'm concerned about how this will be handled after the damage from heavy machinery being running up and down on the road. And so I do assume that they will have bulldozers and they will be unloading them and driving them from Coronado Ave into the area of the proposed fire road. And again, hopefully that would be in their plan to repair the road when they're done with it. And I'd also like to say, if you'd like to see anything else in the park, any other examples of what happens when you put a fire road in, let me know and I will follow up with more evidence. And that's it for me.
Dave, you want to comment on what you're going to accomplish, what you're trying to accomplish here?
Yeah, so I'm going to switch to the letter. It's on the website. I will start by saying that at the Board of Supervisors meeting yesterday, the board adopted the quarry posture. So we'll have to tweak this letter a little bit because it no longer makes sense to ask the Board of Supervisors to not adopt the Quarry Park Master Plan because it's already been adopted, or at least not to ask them to change it. But it could still be removed by a further amendment of the master plan and go back to the Board of Supervisors. I think based on past experience, that's extremely unlikely, but we could choose to leave that, some wording to that effect in this letter. A separate project, so when they came and talked about Quarry Park plan, master plan, and said, we're going to not do anything with CEQA in the master plan. We're just going to handle that in the projects that implement some of the contents of the master plan. Well, PLN 2022-00125 is in fact the very first submittal against the master plan, even before the master plan was adopted. And with very limited time to comment. Most people are not even aware of it. So that's the thing that's this letter is intended to mostly address. Also in that is the new restroom near the pump track and a few other things. This letter is not addressing the other items in that project, just to be clear. As Scott mentioned, this is a new fire road access in a relatively small little community on the East Highway 1 mark. I didn't think to check whether those roads were accepted into the county road system when that little subdivision was rebuilt or not. But we can certainly check into that later. The new fire road extension, for those who are not aware of it, we talked about it at the last meeting a little bit, was added to the master plan after all public comment, and no notification was sent to any of the people who participated in the master plan process or sent comments into the master plan. It just showed up. And while it's obvious when you go and look for it, it's not all that obvious if you're not looking for it. So I missed it when the draft plan came out in August. I suspect quite a few other people as well. The new road, more or less, not quite exactly, follows an existing trail. That trail is sort of in the trail system now. Hannah Orman said at the last meeting it was completely in the park's official trail system. It doesn't look like it on their park maps, but I could be wrong. That trail was built as an unofficial trail, something called in the trade a use trail, made unofficially by bicyclists. And I've hiked it a number of times, and it has already caused some erosion problems. It's not being followed completely with this road. This road has been engineered in an attempt to not cause erosion. But my experience with roads in steep terrain like this is they always cause additional erosion. So that's really all I've got to say. Are there clarifying questions? Well, actually, Greg, you should run this part.
Right. I was going to say the process that we have followed in the past under Claire's leadership is we first ask the council members if they have clarifying questions. Then we go to the public and ask for their comments, and then we ask the council members for their comments and opinions on the letter. I have two clarifying questions to begin with. And again, I've only scanned the CEQA document. But the first thing I didn't see was where's the report from the fire agency that's requesting this road in this configuration? Is that in there is one question. The other clarifying question is we have a letter on the letterhead with the names and officers of the MCC that were just vacated, and we don't have the new members on it. So at a minimum, it would seem to me we need to change the letterhead. And then the last clarifying question, Dave, would be what tweaks are you proposing to make to the letter? And this leaves us with the question of, can we vote on it tonight? So is that a lot?
No, it's not a lot. Pretty reasonable. I'll take the easiest one first, the letterhead. I recognized that issue and I figured I'd wait until the council generates the new letterhead. And of course, the new letterhead should be used. As far as I know, the documents do not include any actual request from CAL FIRE to build this road. We just have the verbal comments from Hannah that it was CAL FIRE. And actually, I take that back. She didn't say it was CAL FIRE. She said fire agencies. I'm assuming
there is text in there that says a fire agency was asking for this road, but yes. I hadn't seen the request.
But not the actual request, as far as I know. I'm sure it exists, but it's just not part of the documents. And as far as tweaks, we could leave it as is, or the most obvious one is to either change to just completely remove the section about asking the Board of Supervisors to change the master plan, or we could instead change that to asking for an amendment to the master plan.
Do we have any other clarifying questions from council members? Claire, you have your hand up. You're muted, Claire.
When we last talked about this, there were points made about the amount of acreage that was being disturbed and about whether the width of the road was out of line and whether there were turnouts that were unnecessary. And the work that Jill did when she first came on the council about the fire road on Montera Mountain, I believe it was cited as being very similar to this road. I haven't had a chance to look at Dave's letter, so I don't know whether any of those points are addressed in the letter or if they need to be addressed.
They are not addressed, and it's one of those questions that we've gone over in the past. Do you want to put a lot of, well, if you ignore our request, please do this. And our general approach has been not to do that. I did put one line in the letter saying if the road is built, that they needed to do more explicit work on erosion control than was already in the plans. Greg, you're looking frozen. Are you still there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was asking Gus if he had a clarifying question.
Yeah, I mean, can we hear from, if CAL FIRE is the one who wants this thing, can we hear from them? Can we ask them to come and explain to us why they theoretically need this thing? I just feel like I'd want to hear that before I definitively said don't build it.
The answer is we could delay and wait that. And that also, I forgot to answer this part of Greg's question. Is there any urgency in this? The urgency of the adoption of the master plan is no longer present, but we were given a 1 month deadline for comments on PLN 2022-00125, which elapses well before January. We could ask for additional time for comments on that, but there's no guarantee we would get it.
Len, you have clarifying questions?
So, and then go to the public, which I'm now a member of.
Okay, thank you.
Basically, this is a style, but that's my feeling. If you don't want to do it that way, then I'll talk now, but I think you should separate the two.
I don't think we heard that whole comment.
You should separate council comments from public comments.
Right.
And there's still council comments coming.
We're asking clarifying questions from council members and we're up to Dan at this point.
Clarifying question. Number one, as was mentioned, there wasn't really there wasn't a real clear explanation as to the need from fire agencies, et cetera. It's my standing that more effort should be pushed towards actual fuel reduction, i.e., start cutting down the smaller eucalyptus within Quarry Park. To me, it's more important to do more significant reduction of fuel load within the park before the expense of this new fire road. But I am interested in hearing the fire agency's concerns and thoughts on this, as well as the parks. But the community has been calling for fuel reduction, significant fuel reduction, not just along the existing fire roads. And there's just been really no action. So I'm interested to hear from parks and fire agencies.
Well, let's conclude council clarifying questions then and move to public comment. And by a remarkable coincidence, we have here with us Hannah Ormshaw from Parks. And it might be most informative to hear from Hannah before we get comments from the rest of the public. So Hannah, would you mind speaking at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Greg. So what I would absolutely be interested in being able to do is come back to the Midcoast Community Council meeting, Midcoast Community Council at a later meeting, and be able to provide a lot more information on the project details. And that can include us coordinating with CAL FIRE to have them join and give their input on the project and what they see as the need for the fire road. And we also have an arborist on staff that would be able to speak to the trees and the condition of the trees. And we also have been partnered with our Department of Public Works and their engineering staff on this project. And they can likely advise on other questions or concerns about erosion or how the engineering design is meant to minimize or mitigate concerns for drainage or erosion. The other, I have, just notes of some of the other concerns, but many of the other fire roads, well, really all of the other fire roads in the park are ones that were inherited and built prior to park's ownership. And so we acknowledge that there are, erosion and sediment concerns with those, but, those are legacy issues related to how those were poorly constructed originally. And this is a well-engineered and designed road proposed. Regarding CEQA, we have offered to extend the comment period to allow for more time, hearing the concern that the referral was received shortly before Thanksgiving, and that we desired to have additional time to fully review the CEQA document and the project details. And to be clear, the CEQA review is just for understanding the accuracy and detail included in the impact analysis and the mitigation that might be proposed for minimizing impacts. But some of the other details about need and CAL FIRE's position on the project would not necessarily be within the CEQA document, but be something that we'd be able to have them provide verbally at a future meeting. And then if that's of interest to the council, for me to return and be able to speak to the concerns I heard tonight and just be able to provide more detail on the project, see if we can have CAL FIRE and Midcoast Fire in attendance, and have some of the other like design or engineering or tree related questions addressed as well. That would be something that we would certainly be able to do. So I just wanted to be able to put that offer forward and continue the discussion on this.
All right, thank you, Hannah. Point of information, our first meeting in January, it looks like it will be the 11th, at which time we could, for example, have Parks and the Fire people come and present the material that's missing. That would then leave us 2 weeks until the 25th of January to decide whether we're going to draft a comment letter and have it approved by the council. Hannah, can you give us until January 31st to complete the comment period on this project?
I believe that would be fine. I know that we have, we're working in coordination with our planning department on this project because it's also combined with the coastal development permit process. So I just would want to confirm from their timing in terms of their process for preparing the materials for the coastal development permit, that would not affect staff's timing from the planning department, because I can't speak to their, their scheduling or their constraints there, but I can follow up and ask if that would be feasible, but we can certainly extend into January. I know that at just the specific date, I can follow up with planning to make sure that the end of January would not otherwise impact their workload.
Well, specifically, the 26th of January would be after our second meeting.
Okay, I can check and follow up on that.
All right. Now, if we could go to questions from the public, informed by the accommodation that Hannah is proposing and the dates we've just discussed. Sid Young, you have your hand raised.
You still have two council members
Hannah.
with hands raised?
I have a question for Hannah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Joe.
Dan, go ahead.
Okay. Hannah, so, what is the proper terminology for on a fire road? Every so often they have a berm that kind of prevents the water from kind of like snowballing down the road. What's the proper term for that?
We refer to them as water bars or rolling dips, depending on the design. Rolling dip is a bit more of a wide and sort of gradual sort of change in slope, sort of reverse grade. And then the water bar is more of a kind of like a speed bump or hump that's just more abrupt and just helps direct water off of the surface over to the side of the hill slope instead. But we use both of those for roads and trails.
Okay, so years back, I remember seeing a number of these water bars, and I've heard that through some of the work, some of that's been disturbed or changed. Or can you comment on as we know, there's problems with the drainage at the park. Can you comment a little bit about the effectiveness and also, more important, what has been changed and what has maybe not put back in place? Or
I don't know of what has not been put back in place. I know that we have, like, with the fuel reduction work that occurred this year along Delphine Fire Road, there was equipment using that road fairly heavily, but part of their contract was to, repair road conditions back to what they had been once they were done with their disturbance. And I know that our ranger staff do routine trail maintenance activities, and that includes fixing water bars and clearing out like drainage ditches along the sides of roads and trails. I can follow up with our ranger staff if they've been seeing any issues, significant issues, and what their sort of routine inspections have looked like, especially after the rains we've had.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. Could we move on to Jill Grant, who hasn't had a chance to comment and is still a member of the council? I'm sorry, Jill, you had your hand raised and I moved on to the public before I entertain your question.
That's okay. I just wanted to ask Hannah, when do you anticipate putting in this fire road and how will it be funded?
It'll be a bit dependent on the timing for when we receive the coastal development permit, but and there isn't a commission hearing for that at this time, but it's our hope that would be sometime this winter. We have existing funding for the project in our capital projects fund that DPW, our Department of Public Works, manages. We have certain capital projects that our Department of Public Works manages and implements. And so this is funded through that. And so because there's existing funding this fiscal year, it would be desired to be able to spend the funding for this project this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Sid Young, you have a question or a comment?
A couple of them, actually. Let's see if I can get it all done in 2 minutes. As far as you mentioned, Hannah, about the Department of Public Works is coordinating with parks on erosion control, leaving the park and emptying into neighborhoods, I guess, and on the trails. Well, maybe you're not coordinating with them about the stuff that runs down Santa Maria, but I'm wondering why, if you are coordinating with Public Works, why they cannot address the erosion that does run off the park. And then I also want to know, why are there no fire roads on the northern end of the park? It seems like, you know, you're turning a trail along the side where there's no houses. I mean, maybe there are some at the very bottom in the East Miramar neighborhood, but that's not the same as all the houses on Upper El Granada Boulevard, of which there are many that don't have any fire road protection over there that I can see. And was there a written request from CAL FIRE, or was it just a conversation that took place? And if so, who did they speak with? Was it Chief Cox? Those were some of my questions. This was to
Anna, can
Greg, would you like me to respond?
Yeah, I would like you to answer if you could, Anna.
Okay, so for Department of Public Works, we, so it's not I guess like working with them or coordinating with them. They're managing the project. With a lot of our capital improvement projects, they fall under the category of a public works project. And so it's actually the Department of Public Works that manages them on behalf of parks. And they have engineering staff that can, develop and oversee these sort of more intensive projects that are like requiring engineering design, things like that. So they're actually the project managers, and we're partnered with them on it. So it's a little bit different than just sort of a collaboration. And then for the fire road, we do have a Dolphin Fire Road access at the top of the park, which is in the northern area, but there is not an existing fire road along the sort of western boundary. But there is fire road access from the Dolphin Road and a gate there. The last question, that the CAL FIRE, we worked with them closely, mostly through on-site visits and conversations on the project rather than a written request, but they've worked with us closely. And this has been with prior parks directors, but more recently, Nicholas and myself have been closely coordinating with CAL FIRE.
Is that with Chief Cox?
Chief Cox has been involved, as well as Rich Sampson and Sarah Colomer.
Okay, thanks. And one more question quickly. The things that called water bars, are those the things I've seen that look like they're rolled up burlap and straw, or is that something else?
No, those are just temporary erosion control measures. Those are straw bottles or, yeah, those are temporary.
So I was really disappointed that they refusing to help out the neighbors on Santa Maria and just allow all that runoff going down the street for years. Why they couldn't put something up, even just some burlap that would keep the water from running down the street with all the sediment. It goes all the way out to the bay. So
we have to focus on the letter in front of us.
I know.
Okay?
I'm sorry.
I agree.
I will contact the Water Resources Board on that issue. Thank you.
We have major concerns about erosion in the area, no doubt. Len Erickson, you have a public comment or question?
Yes. So when Parks decided to modify their approach on the master plan and basically break out individual projects, which would be considered each in their own right, that formed the basis, I believe, for the Board of Supervisors adopting the master plan, which was accomplished at the meeting this week, as Dave noted. The question I have, I think it's for you, Hannah, is let's suppose after discussion, it appears that the council wants to say we would like this project stopped. What's the appropriate, and let's say you agreed to do it, what's the appropriate way to do that? Does that require doing something with the master plan or merely an action to say the project is deleted or stopped?
Procedurally, it could be something that comes through the board as a recommendation. It may just be something that would be, kind of like the council's suggesting a requested amendment to the master plan. But to be frank, it's a little unprecedented from my experience, not a process I've worked through before. So I don't know if there's a sort of formula or format for which,
I understand the confusion. I'm trying to provide the council with a way to effectively write a letter that speaks to what they want to do. Mm-hmm. And as Dave noted, the adoption has sort of sailed. So we just need to know what tool we might try to invoke. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kimberly Williams, question or comment?
Yes, thanks, Greg. I wanted to follow Dave's comment earlier about the timeline for the public to read and comment on this plan and other plans, including, the project-specific analysis. These things have been coming down the pike really fast and furious, and they often involve documents that are over 200, even some are 400 pages long. And the community is not getting adequate time, first of all, to be alerted when they're available, and then enough time before they're actually considered and adopted to even comment. This has happened now 3 times on 3 different projects that I have tried to comment on, but there just wasn't enough time given just a few days. And I feel like part of the problem is, when we went through the public works consideration at this meeting, as an example, we were told over and over that this was just an overarching document that we would have ample time for the public to come back and understand these projects that would come under it and comment on them. And that hasn't been happening. And I guess I raised that because it seems that this is going to continue with projects, plans, and PSAs. And I wonder if the council, not just in mentioning that issue with this letter, but could mention it more broadly to the Board of Supervisors, that the
Did she get dropped? Kimberly, your voice got interrupted.
Adequately in these processes. Biggest concern, the park.
Okay, so I think what we're requesting, what you're requesting, is an approximate schedule of the upcoming projects for comment and their estimated time of availability, so we can see them coming.
I think that's part of it.
As well as more time to comment on each one.
Yeah, but I think it's a little even deeper than that. because this is a continuing thing that's happening throughout the county with every park.
Okay, comment registered. Michelle Weil.
Hi, thank you. Good to speak as a member of the public. Yeah, after working for several years on fuel reduction projects and trying to find ways to make the community of El Granada and the entire coast side safer from fire, I'm pretty surprised at the MCC's letter trying to stop the installation of this new fire road. I agree it would be great to hear from CAL FIRE and have some more information from them on why they're requesting this. But if the fire department or, if CAL FIRE is requesting that they put in a fire road to help keep homes safe from the threat of wildfire, I think we should listen to them. And I think we should not, stop it without having more information, at least on why they are requesting it. We do have a lot of detailed information from the scoping project about the risks to different areas of Quarry Park. And, one thing I'd like to just personally add is that while I was at the California Association of RCDs conference, I had the opportunity to tour an area of the Calder fire in El Dorado County and see firsthand how some shaded fuel breaks and fire roads and other measures that they were taking actually stopped the fire from spreading further to the west. We know it did continue east all the way almost to South Lake Tahoe, but I got to see how the RCD in that area actually put in these measures and it stopped the fire from spreading. And I think that having shaded fuel breaks, which are part of this planning referral, as well as fire roads, will slow down and give the firefighters an opportunity to stop a fire that's heading in that direction. And so, yeah, I just find it pretty surprising that that the MCC would be moving to stop that from happening. So that's my comment.
Let me clarify, Michelle. This letter does not say anything about the shaded fuel breaks, which are all
I know
this project. I'm in full favor of that part of the work.
Yeah, I just think fire roads serve in part the same purpose in terms of giving an fire a stopping point and allowing it to not continue to spread, especially if it's a crown fire. So putting in a fire road does help in that purpose, and then also, of course, allows the firefighters to get up to other areas of the park and be able to make a stand against an oncoming fire.
I think regardless, we should be able to hear their side first without.
Okay,
So Dan, you're beating me to the punch.
Can I
make
more comment on this, Greg, before?
I'd like to close public comment first, Dave. Okay, so we've had clarifying questions from the council and we've had public comment. I think now what we need to do is go around the council.
Before you close public comment, can I make a couple of statements which might?
Oh, that's right. I forgot, Dave. You're a member of the public. Sorry, my mistake.
Well, I'm sort of grandfathered in as co-presenter on the item. That wouldn't stop me from talking unless you didn't want me to. But I want to point out that fire roads themselves don't do anything to prevent fires, and a very large fuel break is already being built between the homes in East Miramar, aka the Shore Park subdivision, and Quarry Park. So the fire road does nothing to provide an extra fuel break in that area. While everybody was talking, I did look it up, and Scott had raised the question whether those roads were part of the county road system or were part of or paper streets maintained by the residents. They are part of the county road system. They were adopted in 1905. So county may not have been maintaining them, but they are in the county road system.
Thanks for
So
that.
the implication of that comment is that the county would then have to restore those roads to the current functionality if the work is done?
That would be true regardless. If you do construction work and you damage a road, you have to repair it.
Okay. Well, I would like to then suggest we should get a sense of the council. We don't have a motion in front of us, but we have a letter. We also have a proposal.
I want to make one
Dave?
other point, that Hannah has not promised that they will delay approval of this project. She only said she will see if it can be delayed. So if you do not adopt this letter tonight and it's not delayed, then you've lost your chance to comment. That's your choice, no longer my choice, but I did want to point that out.
I make a motion that we adopt this letter.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have discussion from the council members before we take a vote? Does anyone want to make a comment or express an opinion here on what we should do? Jill?
I think that we should go ahead and get this letter off and then find out if Hannah can extend the comment period, because we can always have another letter. But I'm afraid, just like Dave said, I'm afraid that, if we don't send this letter, then they might say, well, we can't extend that time, so it's just too late for you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I agree with what Jill just said.
Okay, so the letter as presented would need to be amended, but let's hear from Gus and then Scott before we go.
You're going to take comments from the public too on this?
I didn't know we were going to, but I guess since it is a motion now, we have to. Yeah, you're right, Len.
Thank you.
All right, so Gus?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I understand the risk inherent in not sending the letter, given that we might lose our opportunity to express disapproval if in fact we get to that place. But I don't want to be on record as disapproving of this thing before I've even heard from CAL FIRE as to why they want it. So I will probably vote no, just to give the heads up on that, just because I want to hear from CAL FIRE before I commit to no, don't build the road. Thanks.
Scott?
And I just want to go out on a limb and say I'm not for or against this, but I do want to make sure it's done well. And on my little slide presentation, I showed that's how it's not done well. So if they want to put a fire road in, and this is the best idea, and there's no other ulterior motive to doing it, like just because it's easy, because it's at the end of a road, I would just want to make sure it's done well and for the right reasons.
Okay, Dan, you have your hand up?
Yeah, from my experience, this is a little bit for Gus. From my experience, if a process is not stopped, there will be a chance for them to parks and fire agencies to pretty much put their point across. But if we don't write this letter and approve it with strength tonight, it'll all be forgotten about, and they'll move forward, and we won't have a chance to really have a community discussion on this issue. So I'm all for a community discussion on this issue, and I think the only way to achieve that is to have a yes vote on this letter tonight.
Claire, you have your hand up?
Okay, yes. I will probably vote yes, but I think that this is really confusing. The fact that the letter does not address some of the things that I think should be addressed in asking questions about this road is an issue for me. The fact that we don't know what the comment period actually is an issue for me. The fact that we didn't have much notice on this is an issue. We don't really have much fact to base any decision on. I agree with Michelle. I don't want to say, oh no, let's not fight fires, but this has just been a very confusing proposition and a very confusing process in addressing this issue. And I guess I agree that I don't want to lose our chance to object if there is something to object to, but it's just not clear to me whether there is or not. So I will probably vote to support the letter, but not necessarily because I oppose the project, just because it's so confusing.
Len Erickson, you wanted to make a comment.
Yes, I'm surprised, given the comments by Hannah, who is the Assistant Parks Director, that you don't accept her offer and go with the extension into January. I appreciate what Dave said, but to me, suppose this was Nicholas here, he's the Director of Parks, and he said the same thing. Would you still say, well, we don't necessarily trust you to do that? I believe that the Director, Assistant Director should have the backing of their organization to do it. So I would go with her proposal. Otherwise, you're in this middle place, because certainly you have to either eliminate or dramatically change the first two paragraphs, because it's clear that the master plan itself has been adopted, whatever that means. And so this gives the county a chance to get more clarification there and come back to you. She clearly said she would do it. So that would be what I would like to see the council do as a member of the public.
I'll clarify, it's not that I don't trust Hannah. It's that Hannah didn't make a commitment. She said she would try.
Steve Terry, you have a comment?
Yes.
We'll come back to you, Hannah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the earlier comment period. Thanks for taking my comment now. I just want to comment on two things on this letter. Let me go to it so I can look at it. There's one sentence in the letter here that says, residents will now have additional traffic from public to use the road for hiking and biking. This sentence is kind of upside down, because the whole purpose of this park is to get people to use it. I mean, Fran Pollard's here. She knows she started this whole thing as a community park. She and many other people started this community park many, many years ago. And so I think what we want to do is encourage people to go in the park. So if that sentence is in there, that's like, hey, that's a great thing. Let's do that. Let's get more people to use it. So it doesn't seem to go, it's not consistent with the rest of the message of this thing. And the other thing I wanted to comment about was that I don't remember what it was. I'm sorry. It was a few minutes ago. Anyway, so that's my comment for now. Thanks.
Okay. Sid Young.
I just put a thing in chat, but in case nobody's looking at it, I believe the comment period expires on the 16th of December, but there are no further Board of Supervisors meetings this year, I don't think. So, I think you should write the letter and send it off, even though, just so we maintain our status as having replied.
Hannah Armshaw.
Sorry, I apologize. For the extension, it was really merely just wanting to confirm that it would be acceptable to the January 26th request with our planning department before committing, but otherwise, there's no issue with extending the date beyond what's currently listed. I had sent an email to the council over the weekend proposing into early January. I didn't specify a date at that time either, but I'm committed to follow up and confirm if that requested date is feasible, and make sure that that's public on the website as well in terms of the extension date. And as a point of clarification, the CEQA document would be going forward to the Planning Commission for certification, not the Board of Supervisors, and we don't have a planning hearing date for that yet, but that would be at a later date. This is just for the public comment period on the CEQA document itself.
All right, so I haven't commented yet on this. There are a number of valid concerns about the park, but there are also valid concerns about the letter. And my sense is that we should wait for Hannah, in the spirit of what Hannah, by this time next week, to confirm an extension for comment. And if we get that, then we don't have to do anything more until January, when we entertain a more full presentation of the requirements, the discussion of what the letter might look like for adoption later in January. If we don't get, if Hannah, you cannot confirm an extension, then we could always call a special meeting to adopt a letter built upon this letter. It would be, I hope, a short meeting because we have the letter written. It needs to be tweaked. But that would be my thought. So I'm going to have a tough time voting for this, given I'd rather wait for Hannah to get back. Dave, you wanted to make a comment?
Two things. I wanted to address Steve Terry's comment. I'm not upset about additional access to the park. What I am pointing out is that they are establishing a new trailhead in a residential area, and they have not talked to the residents about establishing that new trailhead. Yes, there is an existing use trail that terminates nearby, but it's very, very hidden. So very few people know about it. Once you build the road, then you have a new official trailhead. And I want to suggest something else you could do, since Hannah's not able to commit to an extension, is you could conditionally adopt this letter, possibly with amendments, that if an extension is given, then don't send the letter. But if extension is not available, can be confirmed by next week, whatever date you want to pick, then you can send the letter. So that covers both bases. It's a little bit weird, but you can do it.
Okay, I have a comment.
Jan Haggerty.
Yeah, I want to be really clear that I want to separate the thought of not trusting Hannah or Nicholas, but there's the system. Systems have failed in the past. In fact, they've often failed for the community of the coast side. So I think that the only guarantee we have to be certain that there's a open community discussion regarding this, and the only way to be certain is to just, and I don't want to wordsmith this letter tonight. The only way to be certain is to just be done with it, pass it with a strong vote of yes, and move forward. I think the county will have plenty of parks will have plenty of time, and the county to handle it and offer a mitigation to the issue.
Jill Grant.
I like Dave's idea, and I wonder if we could approve the letter conditionally and approve it to send on the 16th unless we receive notification that it has been extended to, January
26th.
Yeah. So then we would send it if we don't get the extension. It would just go out on the 16th.
We would need an amendment to the motion, if I understand correctly. Somebody going to propose that amendment?
I'll propose it. I'm not sure how we want to phrase it.
And who wants to second? Who wants to second that?
Since you have
Claire is seconding. Is that Claire? Claire, are you seconding? All right. So we have a motion to conditionally send the letter pending feedback from Parks on an extension of the comment period till at least January 26th. And we would approve the letter, but not send it pending that feedback. That, as I understand it, the amendment. So that's moved by Jill and seconded by Claire. Now, do we have discussion on the amendment?
Well,
Gus has a comment. Gus has a comment.
So the 16th is like 2 days from now, right? So Hannah, can you get us?
Sorry. It shouldn't be the 16th then. It should be.
No, it has.
How many days?
Isn't that the end of the comment period?
Yeah, it has to be the 16th. That's the comment period. That's 16th. Right.
That's all the time that Hannah gets.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, so Hannah, can you get an answer for somebody tomorrow?
I'll reach out to planning and confirm that wouldn't affect their timeline. Yeah.
Okay, I guess we need the answer tomorrow. Okay, thanks.
All right, well, that's great then. So we have a motion, an amendment to the motion, and I'm proposing we take a vote on the amendment to the motion. All right, Dan, can you call the roll on the amendment to the letter, the conditional transmission amendment to the letter?
Claire?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Gus?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
And I'm yes, so it's 6-0.
Okay, so we have modified the letter and we will not send it if we get the extension of comment time from the Parks Department. We now have a vote on the table regarding the proposed letter. Do we have discussion on that matter? Hearing none, I would ask you to call the roll, Dan. Oh, Len Erickson, you have a public comment.
Just a question as to whether you still want to leave in the opening paragraphs, which discuss this as asking the Board of Supervisors to do something with the master plan, which they adopted.
I'd like to leave it. I'd like to leave it because it shows how rushed we were to get this out.
I would like to leave it because I don't want to take any more time on this letter when I think it's going to be withheld anyway.
Call for vote.
Steve Terry had a comment. I wanted to give him a chance. It's quick,
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Greg. Despite your last comment, my second comment I had was the very last paragraph sort of invites an alternative to not approving this road extension. And I'm afraid that if you invite that alternative, then they'll just take it. They'll say, oh, well, okay, we're going to do it anyway. So they said it's okay if we go ahead and build it and redesign it to what we think is right and then keep it in there. So you may want to consider removing that last sentence. Thank you.
Do we have any other discussion from the council on Steve's point?
Can you give me a second?
Sid wants to make a point.
I don't know if it's a point, it's more of a question. If they choose to approve it and go through with it anyway, isn't it appealable to the Coastal Commission? It is a CDP, right? Dave or whoever?
Not all CDPs are appealable to the Coastal Commission.
Okay.
I do not know if this one is or not. I have to go back and look at the referral.
Okay, thanks.
All right, well, I'm ready to call the roll on this. Dan, if you're ready to call the roll on the letter as it's written.
Okay. Yes. So I'm a yes. Jill?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Gus?
No.
Greg?
No.
Claire?
Yes.
Okay, so 4-2 passes.
Did you hear Jill? Did she say yes? Okay, good. So it's 4-2. The letter will be sent if we do not get an extension to comment from the Parks Department. All right, I think that concludes that agenda item. I'd like to move now on to the Brown Act issue that has come up regarding in-person attendance. We discussed this at the last council meeting, but I wanted to bring it up again for two reasons. One is we have new council members in Scott and Gus, and we will have more new council members. Ray Muller has asked if we would send a letter to him, and it could be just us individually, like me, Claire, regarding our concerns about in-person attendance for health reasons. And some of us have immunocompromised spouses. We know that the space we would be in is not HEPA filtered with UV sterilization and good ventilation, et cetera. So I would like to alert Ray that we have concerns and would prefer to continue without council members being required to attend. The current law does provide exceptions, but they're limited. And in my case, I would need a permanent waiver for my spouse to not be exposed should I be exposed to the virus in a public meeting. So I would like to write such a letter. My question is, does the council want to write that letter, which we can do in January? And if we do write that letter, what is your sense about to whom we send it? I mean, I would start with Governor Brown. I would address one to Senator Becker. I'd address one to Assembly Member Berman, I believe it is. I would address one to the Board of Supervisors. I would raise the flag that we have enough problems getting people to work on this council without jeopardizing their health and safety. And I would flag a number of potential reasons why we can be granted an exemption. We're an advisory board. We don't have budgetary authority. We're unpaid, right? We don't even get per meeting attendance. We're not salaried with benefits. So if the legislature would care to make an exception, they could make it pretty narrow to only cover agencies or councils with limited authority like us. So I'm just asking for the sense of the council. Are you interested in having a letter like that drafted at the January meeting for transmission to our government and its various level? And I can take comments from council members as you see fit. Jill Grant.
So this is how I'm going to be when we're at in-person meetings. And I think we're all going to need to have little microphones like they do in drama classes that stick to your face so you can hear us. Because I can't risk the health of my parents, and I see them often. And so I wear a mask in stores and everywhere, and they're in their 80s. My husband's mother's in her 90s. There's no way I'm risking their health. So if we do go back to it, you guys might want to get those microphones. Thanks.
Gus, you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, can we offer something like, as long as one of us is there, we've sort of met the requirements for in-person. I don't mind going in person. I'd be happy to be there in person. I'm happy to, so that the public has a place they can go if they want to go in person, that at least one of us would be there. I don't mind doing it. So, I just want to throw that out there as another alternative we could put in a letter.
Okay, understood. Scott?
I just want to support what makes everybody most comfortable. I'm happy with doing it anyway, as long as we're all comfortable with that. So if you want to continue meeting in Zoom, I'm fine with that. If you say we need to do something special and meet in person, I'm fine with that too. So whatever is we're most, we should be able to do whatever we want so that we're most comfortable and safe.
Dan Haggerty?
Yeah, my mother's in her 90s as well. So I agree with Jill and Greg.
Okay. Claire?
I know that you know how I feel about it. I think, yes, we should write a letter. I think we should start writing a letter immediately, since we have a sense of the council, and send it to Ray and get him working on it. I think there's a number of angles to go, and we may not succeed, but I think there are a number of directions to go with this. I don't think we need to decide tonight who we're going to write to. Ray has requested a letter, and he said he would shepherd it to where he needs to take it. I would propose that maybe you and I, Greg, write a letter and send it to Gray. Send it to Ray. It's really late Ray. Here. Now, unless there is a sense of the council that we should not do that, and it doesn't sound like there is.
Yeah, okay. Sid, do you want to make a comment quickly?
Only that if they were still going to be meeting in that room they used to meet in the Granada Sanitary District office, it doesn't have really good ventilation. It's very crowded if there's an important agenda item. So I think another thing you might want to write in the letter is to have the county give us a better venue, because they don't provide us a venue, and maybe they should. pay for something that's, I don't know if we pay for the Granada meeting room,
I had
but
that thought too. And I've been at work with a ventilation engineer to try and get the specs for what would constitute a safe environment. And one of my proposals would be that whatever government agency is going to be requiring this, provide us with the necessary protection. That
Good,
could also
thanks.
be part of the work. But
Okay.
I think the sense of the council is that Claire and I will write a letter as individuals, not as on behalf of the whole council, just to get Ray alerted and see what he can do. And then when we come back in January, we'll have a better sense of what letter we want to write and who we want to write it to. I'd like to move on to council activity, and I would like to make acknowledge an exception here that Len Erickson has been doing work on behalf of the council when he was on the council, and he has things he wanted to report tonight under council member activity. So I'd like to give Len, if you're still there, a chance to comment.
Sure. I was involved in 3 interactions since our last council meeting. The first, which has already come up, was at the supervisors meeting in which they received our comments and other comments of the public with regard to the Quarry Park master plan. So I think that's been covered pretty well. Don't need to say more about that. This morning, Cypress Point was the subject of a scoping session by the Planning Commission. And I, as well as some other members of the community, including Greg, spoke there. I spoke in particular about my concerns that relate to the transportation element of the Cypress Point project. And I'm looking for a time to give an overall update relative to transportation, sort of coordinating through Gus on that. But I think there are just obvious concerns there that nothing I've seen to date shows that they're going to get addressed appropriately. But this is the start of a public comment process. So I think you want to follow that closely. Finally, in looking at some of the recent transportation projects, all of which refer back to Connect the Coast Side as a guiding policy umbrella document for things, and then looking at our website with many transportation elements in it. And I know that Lisa Ketchum has worked very hard to keep it up to date, but basically I think it would be useful to have an overall alignment between Connect the Coast Side and what's in our website. And that's at a high level. So I opened a discussion with the planning department about that, just to get a little bit of a feel for it. And if I follow up further, I'll probably work with Gus and any other council members that are appropriate to do that. So that's just my update there.
Other council member activity you want to mention?
And that was it.
No, I mean among the rest of the council. Thank you.
Gotcha.
I do want to mention I attended the meeting at the Planning Commission today, and I spoke with grave concern about the capacity of our infrastructure, wet weather storage, the sewage plant, the water supply, the firefighting water storage, fire access, the hydrant pressure in Moss Beach. Many of these things are already documented in documents from Montero Water and Sanitary District, et cetera. And also the traffic and parking issues where it appears significant errors were made in the transportation study using a 9-year-old transportation standard that is 2 versions out of date. And in my opinion, markedly underestimating the parking requirements. And we also attended the Fire Safe Council grant session, and I brought up 3 grant proposals which would have benefited our area with the group headed by Denise and Nia. One was to try and get rid of the trees north of the Lantos Tunnel. Another was to try and do the same to the Martini Creek bypass owned by Caltrans, which is like a spear into Moss Beach and could conduct a wildfire. Geez, Len, I can't even remember the third one. But at any rate, the CAL FIRE grants on the table were not amenable to the proposals that I made on behalf of the coast side. And I will be following up with Denise and Nia and trying to get a list to her. And we should discuss this in future council meetings of what our priorities are out here for wildfire and what we want to do about grant procurement. Okay, I think that concludes council activity. Future agendas, we already discussed in this meeting. We're probably going to be discussing the Southridge Fire Road at a future meeting, a letter on Brown Act attendance. We're going to have an update on the appointment of replacement members, the process and candidates. And then we're going to need retreats. There are two things that are normally done, if I could simplify it. One is to agree on roles and responsibilities and coverage duties. I've already spoken to some of you, and I know some of you are covering some bases just out of your nature level of interest, but we have a variety of agencies we normally monitor the agendas on and attend. And so we need to agree on a bunch of duties. And then we also have to have a broader discussion about what our priorities are for the year. And as a council, what we want to work on. This is something that Michelle and before her, Lisa Ketchum had organized well. So I think the retreats to me are somewhat intertwined with the availability and the process for appointing replacement members. I would like to have, if possible, replacement members on soonest so that we could have one retreat with Tim Brown covering the Brown Act and all the assignments and duties rather than having to do things twice. And all I can say is I will update the council once I know more from Tim Fox. I've heard rumors of 4 people interested in 2 slots. 2 of them are much more firm than the others, but I will be contacting and following up with everybody who's expressed an interest to see what we can bring to the table in terms of candidates for being appointed. Does anybody have other suggestions or agendas for future meetings in the near term? Hearing none. Oh, wait a minute, Sid, you have an agenda suggestion.
I just want a really quick suggestion, and that is that Steve Monowitz gave his report on the mitigation funds, and it didn't look accurate to me. I believe that they took more money out of our mitigation funds and from GCSD, plus they got a donation from REI and I think the bicycle group to build the pump track in Quarry Park, but they only showed like 235,000 and they took 250,000 from mitigation funds. So I would like to see, if you want a rundown of every improvement that they used our mitigation funds for, and how did they come up with the number that they put in his report, because it didn't match up with the transfer of funds. They took away.
I'm sure our Secretary Scott Bollinger has recorded your concern in the minutes, and we'll be seeing it within a few days.
Okay.
Fran Pollard.
Yeah, hi. I asked before that maybe you request the general manager of the Harbor District to come and make a presentation. They're getting into so many things. You probably heard the retail business now. They want to maybe tear it down, do something else, go up or move it, or they've got all kinds of ideas. Plus Surfers Beach. I'm really concerned about that because they're cutting down parking. Parking is the one thing we need. They're going to lose the parking on the Burnham Strip because that's going to become a park. And I don't know where everybody's going to park. It's already a mess now. So I want them to come and make a presentation. They've never made one to the Coast Side or to Half Moon Bay. And they say they have.
GCSD, you mean GCSD presenting the Burnham Strip plan? Is that what you mean, Fran?
No, the Harbor District.
Okay, the Harbor District is one thing. You also mentioned Surfers Beach. To me, that's a Caltrans or a GCSD issue, not a Harbor District issue. Maybe I'm misunderstanding.
No, they're gonna rebuild. They're putting in a restroom in the RV park down the lower end at Surfers Beach, inside the harbor, where there's parking, where the surfer parking is now. They're taking that out and they're going to make a big plaza and a park area and put in a restroom and a shower. And that's all been approved by them without anybody knowing about it. They never made a presentation to the coast side or to Half Moon Bay.
All right. It sounds like
And
we
they're
should
not
follow up
ready
on
to do anything, so I think it's good timing starting next year to get them to come before, they get any more involved. Plus,
Thanks for alerting
the
us to
new
that, Fran.
retail thing.
Right, I'm aware of that. Dan, agenda suggestions?
Yeah, for future agenda item. The last two significant concrete side work jobs in El Granada were done with a beige color of concrete. So I'd like to have an agenda item regarding a standard of having any future significant concrete work done with the same beige, and if there's a certain situation where we have non-color concrete and it's a small portion, have it match. So basically, DPW sidewalk concrete color discussion agenda item.
Okay, and I assume you would help lead the preparation of that agenda topic.
Yes.
Okay, Jill Grant.
As a follow-up to Dan's comment, I've been on lots of projects, and what they do is they take a picture of the site and then take it to the paint company and match the background. So I don't know why, they don't do that out here on the coast, but that works pretty well for concrete. You just take a picture of wherever it's going to sit, match it with the grass or with the hills or whatever. That's my only comment.
Hearing no other suggestions, I want to thank everyone for their participation tonight and their tolerance of my managing the meeting for the first time. I will point with pride to the fact that it is 9:25 p.m. instead of the 9:45 I had forecasted in the agenda, and I'm about to call for a motion to adjourn.
Nope, you can't. We have to do the minutes.
Oh, darn it.
Nice try.
You're right. Thank you. And we're going to miss it then. So we have a correction to the minutes proposed by Sid Young, who was misquoted. She typed it into the chat, and it says, please strike the words that Keith Nurhan hasn't paid for and replace with haven't paid for since Keith Nurhan's ownership. So that is a change I can make to the minutes if you all are agree with that correction. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes with Sid's correction? In which case I will take care of those tomorrow.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Let's, Dan, can you call a vote on amending and approving the amended minutes?
Claire?
She might have gone to bed. She might have gone to bed.
Okay. Greg?
Yes.
Gus?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
And I'm yes. So that is 5 and 1 no-show.
I think it would only fitting to ask Jill Grant to move for adjournment since she's the one that's
All right. I move we adjourn.
Her last act.
Do we have a second? Was that Gus seconding it? Yeah. Okay. Call the roll for adjournment, Dan.
Okay, Claire's not here still, right? Okay. Greg?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Gus?
Yes.
I'm yes. Jill?
Yes.
Okay, 5-0.
We are adjourned except for Dave Olson and I, who will spend a minute on some infrastructure matters related to saving the desiderata of this meeting. Thank
Happy
you all for your
holidays.
time. Happy
Thank you.
holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays, everyone. Good night.
See ya.
Aloha.
Happy holidays.
So